Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition and how the page length is. I have data to give you today to tell you Dungeons and Dragon books, there's just no question, they are way too long, okay? And it is really, really hurting the hobby, in my opinion. And frankly, I think page length. I love Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I know Wizards of the Coast is trying hard, but I think there's a deep prejudice that's sitting in the game right now, and it's in page length. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I recently completed the Orange Spine Easley collection. The Orange Spine Easleys are 12 books, all Dungeons & Dragons hardbacks, all printed between 1980 and 1987. Every single book printed in the height of the Satanic Panic. Every single book, except 2/3 of the book, printed under direct design access by Gary Gygax, and then a couple of the books, and then like 2 or 3 of the books being printed literally as Gary Gygax is walking out the door of TSR, but all the design in them is really his work or was overseen by him, right? So, the Orange Spine Easleys are really... They are Dungeons & Dragons in a nutshell. They are Dungeons & Dragons in 12 books. They are Dungeons & Dragons in 12 hardbacks. And they are Dungeons & Dragons by Gary Gygax, period. I think they're actually the greatest collectible in the game, okay? Well, I completed my collection, and I'll tell you right now, man, I've just been, pouring through them, right? And I'm looking at them. I'm actually reading them, but I'm also just literally looking at the books physically, and seeing what are the deltas, right? How are they different, right, from each other and from books in every other edition, right? And especially how are they, these are the first edition books, D&D 1E, how they compare to D&D 5E. And one thing that shocked me, I could not believe this when I looked at it with my own eyes. 8 of the 12 Orange Spine Easleys, which are probably the best, most concise nutshell of Dungeons and Dragons, 8 out of 12, 2/3 of Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s, their hardbacks were 128 pages long. 128 pages is a massively important fact about Dungeons and Dragons 1E, okay? The hardbacks were 128 pages long, okay? And the 128 page book is literally 8 of 12 of the Orange Spine Easleys, right? They're 8 of 12 of the Orange Spine Easleys are 128 pages long. The Monster Manual is even and one of those 128 page books is the Player's Handbook. The Monster Manual is literally 110 pages long, shorter than the Player's Handbook, and shorter than the vast majority of the of all of the Orange Spine Easley books. So 128 pages, it's very important to understand this. This was a platform for Dungeons & Dragons 1E. They're like, okay, we're creating another book. What's the length? Shut your mouth, it's 128. We're going with the default, and the thing is, when we send this thing to the printer, there's no questions. They already got the template, right? So we just fill the pages, right? So it made it much faster for them to be able to do the books. They could cut up and do the math much easier. It allowed them to knock more books out more quickly, right? So 128 is the standard page count for the Orange Spine Easleys. And that meant that the Player's Handbook was 128 pages. The Monster Manual was 110. And then I think it was Oriental Adventures is a weird count. It's 140 pages long, right? And then the big honkin' book, only one book in all of the 1980 to 1987 Orange Spine Easleys, D&D 1E hardcovers, only one goes over 200 pages, and that is the DMG, and that is 240 pages long. Okay, so with that page count, pretty incredible, really, really incredible to just see this, right? Where's D&D 5e today? Their bog standard default length is 256 pages, literally double the old standard, right? So a bog standard, right, bog standard source book that comes out for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is twice the length of the PHB from D&D 1E. Now, why is this a problem? It is incredibly prejudiced, in my opinion. Okay, here's why. So I live next to two cities. One of them is a blighted city. I'm not even going to say its name because I don't want to embarrass it, but it's blighted. It's really struggling. It literally doesn't have any grocery stores, right? Like it is a food desert, right? It has no grocery stores, right? Terrible, just horrible, right? And then I have another city, and I will say this name because they're super rich, right? Is Westchester. So I live near Westchester in Pennsylvania, Westchester, Pennsylvania. So this blighted city, if you go to their library, you can literally stand in the center of the room and you're not more than 30 feet away from any book in the library, right? And my heart just breaks, right? And the books are crappy, old. It barely qualifies as a library, right? Frankly, I would tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if the books I own are more valuable than the books that are in this city library. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible crime. Like, crime of culture, right? You go to Westchester, right, where they got super dope tax money. The whole Westchester is filled with nothing but rich people, right? And maybe there's a few people who aren't rich in Westchester, but not many. And their library. I'm sorry, not Westchester, Exton, Pennsylvania. So Exton, again, ton of money there, right? Their library is a gleaming palace of books. They have a gigantic open lobby where you are received that does not contain a single book. You just walk in it and enjoy being under a 60-foot roof, right? And look up and like the sun shines down on you. The lobby, the open air lobby in Exton is larger than the library in the blighted city I live next to. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so bad, right? And that library has like 3 stories and sprawls out and has like wings and is filled with video games, books of every description, movies, CDs, and even like board games. Like, it's crazy, right? And even one small wing is double or triple the size of the blighted city's single room library, right? So this blighted city where there's tons of poverty, they have no books, right? Virtually no books. And this other city where everyone can buy any book they want tomorrow, right? And it'll literally be on their shelf. They can order through Amazon. Even a book $300, right? They can get it immediately. Have a gigantic library. So when we have doubled the size of the books that we are selling as the source books, that a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition bog standard source book is double the length of a 1E player's handbook, it is wealth discrimination, in my opinion. It is a prejudice it is a class prejudice. It needs to be fixed. We should go back to the 128 page standard. That's my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.